Jameson had been on the force for over a decade, and he'd seen it all. He patrolled the streets with a sense of authority, knowing his presence kept the community in check. On this particular morning, he was tasked with directing traffic near a busy intersection. As he stood tall, scanning the crowd, his eyes landed on a young woman jaywalking across the street. He whistled loudly, signaling her to stop. The woman, dressed in a stylish outfit and heels, seemed oblivious to the officer's command. Jameson strode towards her, his boots clicking on the pavement. "Ma'am, you need to stop right there," he said firmly, his hand resting on his hip. The woman turned to face Jameson, a hint of annoyance in her eyes. "What's the problem, officer?" she asked, her voice laced with attitude. Jameson's expression turned stern. "You're jaywalking, ma'am. That's a ticketable offense." He pulled out his ticket book and began to scribble. The woman raised an eyebrow. "Isn't there a pedestrian crossing just a block away? I didn't see any harm in crossing here." Jameson's tone turned condescending. "Rules are rules, ma'am. You should know better than to break them." Unbeknownst to Jameson, the woman's eyes flashed with anger, but she remained calm. "I understand, officer. But perhaps you should know who you're dealing with before you start writing tickets." Jameson snorted. "I don't care if you're a celebrity or a business owner, the law applies to everyone equally." The woman smiled sweetly. "That's precisely my point, officer. You see, my name is Emily Wilson, and I'm the president's daughter." Jameson's eyes widened in shock as he stumbled backward, nearly dropping his ticket book. Jameson's face turned bright red as he stuttered, I had no idea, Miss Wilson. I apologize if I was too harsh." Emily's smile grew wider. "Harsh? You were downright rude, but I suppose it's good to know how the police treat ordinary citizens." Jameson's radio crackled to life, and a voice informed him that the president's motorcade was approaching the area. Emily's eyes sparkled with amusement. "I think my father would like to have a word with you, officer." As the motorcade arrived, Jameson's supervisor rushed to the scene, whispering urgent instructions to Jameson. The officer's face fell as he realized the gravity of his situation. The president himself stepped out of the limousine, his expression stern. "Officer Jameson, I've heard about your encounter with my daughter," the president said, his voice firm but controlled. "I expect my officers to treat all citizens with respect, regardless of their background." Jameson swallowed hard, knowing his career might be on the line. "Yes, Mr. President, I understand." The president's expression remained stern as he turned to Emily. "Sweetheart, are you okay? Did the officer harm you in any way?" Emily shook her head, a hint of amusement still in her eyes. "I'm fine, Dad, just a bit of a misunderstanding." The president nodded, his gaze returning to Jameson. "Officer, I think it's best if you accompany my chief of staff to a meeting. We'll discuss this further." Jameson nodded, feeling a sense of dread wash over him. As he followed the chief of staff, Jameson couldn't help but wonder what the consequences would be. Had he just sealed his fate as a police officer? The chief of staff, a no-nonsense woman with a sharp jawline, led Jameson to her office. She closed the door behind him and gestured for him to sit. "Officer Jameson, I've reviewed the footage. You came across as aggressive." Jameson sighed, rubbing his temples. "I was just doing my job, ma'am. I didn't know who she was." The chief leaned forward. "That's precisely the problem. You didn't know who she was, but you treated her like she was nobody. That's not the kind of policing we want in this city." The chief of staff leaned back in her chair, steepling her fingers. "Officer Jameson, I'm recommending that you undergo additional training on de-escalation techniques and community relations. You'll also be required to apologize to Miss Wilson in person." Jameson's face fell. "Apologize, ma'am, The chief raised her hand. "Let me make one thing clear. The president's daughter is not just anyone. She's a representative of this administration, and she deserves respect. You'll apologize, and you'll do it with a smile. Do I make myself clear?" Jameson nodded, feeling his pride take a hit. "Yes, ma'am, I understand." Later that day, Jameson stood outside Emily's office, his heart heavy with reluctance. He took a deep breath and knocked on the door. Emily's voice called out, "Come in." Jameson entered, his eyes meeting Emily's. "Miss Wilson, I wanted to apologize for my behavior earlier. I was out of line, and I'm truly sorry." Emily's expression softened, and she nodded graciously. "Apology accepted, Officer Jameson. Just remember, we're all human beings, deserving of respect. Let's try to do better next time, okay?" Jameson nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. As Jameson left the office, he couldn't help but reflect on the encounter. He realized that he'd let his ego get the better of him and that he needed to work on his people skills. The experience had been humbling, but it had also taught him a valuable lesson. Jameson returned to his patrol, his approach slightly different now. He kept in mind the importance of treating everyone with respect, regardless of their background. And as he directed traffic, he smiled, knowing that sometimes, it's the tough lessons that make us better officers. The news of Officer Jameson's encounter with the president's daughter spread like wildfire through the police department. Some officers defended Jameson's actions, citing the need for strict enforcement, while others criticized him for his handling of the situation. The police chief called Jameson to his office, where he delivered a formal warning. "Officer Jameson, while I understand that you're a good officer, this incident has brought attention to our department's approach to community policing. We'll be reviewing our policies and procedures to ensure that our officers are better equipped to handle situations like this in the future." Jameson left the chief's office with a sense of relief, knowing that he wouldn't face more severe consequences. However, he couldn't shake off the feeling that his reputation had taken a hit. The president sat in his office, watching the footage of the encounter on his monitor. He sighed, rubbing his temples. As a father, he was concerned about Emily's well-being, but as the president, he was also aware of the implications of the incident. He called his advisor, Rachel, into his office. "Rachel, I want you to look into Officer Jameson's record. See if there's a pattern of behavior like this. If so, we need to address it. We can't have our officers intimidating citizens, especially not my daughter." Rachel nodded, taking notes. "I'll get right on it, Mr. President. But perhaps we should also consider using this incident as an opportunity to highlight the importance of community policing and respect between law enforcement and citizens." The president nodded thoughtfully. "That's a good idea, Rachel. Let's explore that further." The incident sparked a heated debate in the community, with some residents calling for Jameson's dismissal and others defending his actions. A local news station interviewed Emily, who shared her perspective on the encounter. "I was treated like a nobody, simply because I didn't fit into the officer's expectations," Emily said. This incident highlights the need for greater understanding and empathy between law enforcement and the community. We need to work together to build trust and ensure that everyone is treated with dignity and respect. The segment sparked a wave of comments on social media, with many residents expressing their opinions on the matter. In the weeks that followed, Officer Jameson underwent the recommended training and began to approach his job with a newfound sense of empathy. He started attending community outreach programs, where he met with residents and listened to their concerns. Jameson realized that policing wasn't just about enforcing laws, but about building relationships and trust. He began to see the community in a different light, and his interactions with residents became more positive. As the months passed, Jameson became a respected member of the community, known for his fairness and compassion. He continued to serve the city with dedication, and the president's daughter became an advocate for police reform, working to build bridges between law enforcement and the community. Emily's experience with Officer Jameson sparked a passion within her to reform the police department's approach to community policing. She began working closely with the police chief and other officials to implement new policies and training programs. One of the key initiatives was the creation of a community policing unit, which focused on building relationships between officers and residents. The unit was tasked with engaging in outreach programs, attending community events, and providing education on citizens' rights. Emily also worked with the police department to establish a review board, comprised of community members and law enforcement officials, to investigate complaints of police misconduct. The board aimed to increase transparency and accountability within the department. As the months went by, the community began to notice a shift in the police department's approach. Officers were more engaged, and residents felt more comfortable approaching them. The number of complaints about police misconduct decreased, and the department's reputation began to improve. Officer Jameson, who had once been criticized for his handling of the situation, became a model for the new approach. He worked closely with the community policing unit, building relationships and trust with residents. The president took notice of the progress and praised Emily's efforts. "Your work on police reform is making a real difference, Emily. I'm proud of you." Emily smiled, knowing that her experience had sparked a movement that would continue to grow. Years later, Officer Jameson would look back on the incident with Emily as a turning point in his career. He became a leader in the police department, advocating for community policing and mentoring new officers. Emily's work on police reform continued, and she became a national advocate for community policing. She worked with law enforcement agencies across the country, helping to implement similar reforms. The incident that had sparked it all became a footnote in history, a reminder of the power of one moment to change the course of lives and communities. The legacy of that encounter lived on, inspiring future generations to work towards a more just and equitable society. Officer Jameson retired from the force many years later, but he never forgot the lessons he learned from Emily. He looked back on his career with pride, knowing that he had made a difference. Emily, now a respected leader in her community, looked back on her experience with Officer Jameson with gratitude. She realized that the encounter had been a catalyst for growth, both for herself and for the community. As she looked out at the city, she knew that there was still much work to be done, but she was hopeful. The progress they'd made was a testament to the power of compassion, empathy, and determination. The story of Officer Jameson and Emily Wilson serves as a reminder that even the most unexpected encounters can have a profound impact on our lives. It highlights the importance of empathy, understanding, and compassion in our interactions with others. As we reflect on the events that unfolded, we're reminded that growth and change are possible when we approach situations with an open mind and a willingness to learn. Officer Jameson's transformation from a strict enforcer to a community-focused officer shows that people can change and grow. Emily's advocacy for police reform demonstrates the power of using our experiences to make a positive impact. Her work inspires us to strive for a more just and equitable society. The story concludes on a hopeful note, encouraging us to approach our own encounters with kindness, understanding, and a commitment to growth. By doing so, we can create a ripple effect of positivity that extends far beyond our individual lives.